Have you ever tasted the nectar of a honeysuckle? Did you know that you can add pansies and tulips to a spring salad? Obviously, you can have an entire garden dedicated to your kitchen if your heart desires, and I do encourage your heart to desire this. But my point here is that even if you don't have a vegetable garden, you can satisfy your taste buds by strategically planting some things to give you a little bit of delight to your taste buds here and there. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my garden. My name is Vanessa, and I turn our yard into our own little happy place at home. And I want to give you whatever tool I have to help you do the same. Here are 4 small pleasures that I've found in my cottage garden and how you can design your cottage garden to experience them as well. First is the smell of lilac in spring. Have you ever been asked the question about what the first thing is that people notice about the inside of your home? It's not the decor, the mess, or the undusted baseboards, but it's the fragrance. As soon as you walk in, you get a whiff of whatever it is that the homeowner has become nose blind to, for better or worse. When a house smells like lemons or verbena, for example, it exudes cleanliness and invites you to recline and relax. I have a feeling that a similar thing is true of gardens. What's the first thing you do when you see a rose? I bend down and smell it. And aren't you disappointed when it has no scent? I know I am. There's just something about a scented rose that is just magnificent. I think the best feeling has to be when you're standing in the garden, entirely unaware of the fragrance that lies beyond, and past your nose drifts a small, subtle smell of something lovely and unknown, leaving you intentionally sniffing around, much like a tracking dog looking for its target. And until you find your target, the flower that teases you with its fragrance remains forefront in your mind. For me in spring, it's always the lilac. And in summer, there's nothing sweeter than the smell of the gardenia. What I wouldn't give to smell the gardenia all year. Fragrance in small doses, anyway, is wonderful and a welcome part of my garden. There are so many plants with lovely fragrances. Plant as many as you can and let the wind surprise you with them. The second thing is the feel of lamb's ears. I didn't realize how much I liked not just to see, but to feel the texture in the garden until my hand refused to leave the allium heads alone this past spring. I have allium bulbs planted around my patio garden, and one in particular is right next to one of the chairs. And so sitting in that chair side by side with the allium, naturally I'd reach out to touch it, and it's got to be the most wonderful feeling. It feels as if it could be one of those sensory soothing toys, like one of those stress relief balls. Shut your hand around them, and they gather anxiously in your hand, awaiting the moment that they can spring back into shape. It's so fun. I got my kids to do it, and all spring would sit in that chair and play bounce back with the allium flower heads. Another favorite is the lamb's ear. Surely you know this plant. Called lamb's ear because the leaves are a velvety texture, like the feel I imagine a teeny tiny lamb's ear might feel like. I've never seen a teeny tiny lamb's in real life, so I couldn't even begin to verify this, but at least in my imagination, the name of the plant gets this right. Another favorite is grass. I almost always run my hands through a bunch of tall grass. Oh, what about their flowers? My boy loves to take the flowers and surprise me by tickling the back of my neck with them. And I do the same with him. A small thing, but so much joy. The point here is that if you can join with the birds, bees, and wildlife to interact with the garden, you will find it much more welcoming to you. The third little pleasure found in my garden is the taste of the honeysuckle. Have you ever tasted the nectar of a honeysuckle? Did you know that you can add pansies and tulips to a spring salad? Obviously, you can have an entire garden dedicated to your kitchen if your heart desires, and I do encourage your heart to desire this. To watch my kids grab a hot tomato from the garden and douse their shirts with its juice really makes me smile. So do plant a vegetable garden that creates so much interest that a good chunk of your harvest is eaten long before it makes its way to your dining room table. Fresh corn chucked and eaten right where it is picked is all of our favorites. It's so sweet, creamy, and just perfectly crunchy at this stage. But my point here is that even if you don't have a vegetable garden, You can satisfy your taste buds by strategically planting some things to give you a little bit of delight to your taste buds here and there. Things like fruit trees under which you can dig your teeth right into its fruit just as it's recently fallen. Ornamentals are lovely, but do give yourself an opportunity to engage your taste buds in the garden. And lastly, the sound of the birds is one of the garden's greatest pleasures. Do you bird watch? I just cannot believe how many different birds frequent our yard. This wasn't always the case. I remember a few years back, my friend brought her daughter here because she had an assignment to observe as many birds as she could in February. And my friend thought, well, since Vanessa has a garden, I'll take her to the garden. Surely there'll be lots of bugs, lots of birds there. And there weren't that many birds. And I was very disappointed with this. I don't know that I set out to fix this problem, but I did somehow fix it. I think the how is by leaving some of the garden cleanup for late winter. I can't leave all of my garden cleanup for late winter, but I do leave some behind. This means that some seed heads get left behind, which means food for the birds in the winter. I was noticing this past winter just how many birds there were in our garden, and it was such a source of enjoyment for us to see a cardinal perched on a tree branch covered with snow. That's something out of books. And that's just winter. Birds are probably at their height in my garden in the middle of summer. And my favorites, probably like yours, are the hummingbirds. There's something so sweet about seeing a hummingbird feed on a black and blue salvia, for example. I did not plant black and blue salvia this year, and I was beating myself up because it's one of the main plants that attracts hummingbirds in my garden. But I was relieved to see them on my Verbena bonariensis, I think, and that gave me great joy. And the sound of birds, especially in the morning, is unmatched. I mean, people pay money for those sound machine things that has the sound of birds. In your garden, you can have the real deal. That's got to be one of the most calming feelings in the world. So leave some of your seed heads up through the winter and let some things go to seed throughout the growing season to invite your little friends in to provide a beautiful symphony. I don't know about you, but one of the reasons I have a garden is so that I can constantly meet life's little pleasures here. Life is full of cares, but having a place that constantly offers an opportunity to meet and bask in the small and lovely gifts of God is priceless. And while things of grandeur often steal the show, I choose to take the small, beautiful things that constantly remind me that the common graces of God are ever so present in my life amongst the cares. Small things that I didn't even at first know to plan for, and that truly went unnoticed a while. But once my senses became awakened to them, I knew that it was those small things that were worth cherishing 1,000 times over, because it is their presence that constantly propels me to gratitude. And a heart of gratitude, well, how does one describe the power of a heart of gratitude? Perhaps best by reminding of oneself of what a heart of ingratitude looks like. Not only do I struggle with ungrateful people, I much prefer myself when my heart is grateful. And so in an effort to feed a heart of gratitude, apart from looking to the author and finisher of my faith, I look for the simple pleasures of life, any and everywhere that I can. And in the garden is no different. When I first set out to garden, I was after a feeling more than anything. In this video, I talk about the garden principle that guided my path as I sought this feeling. Keep this garden principle in mind, and you will create something from which you will get the max enjoyment. I think you'll love learning this tip and the surprising way I learned about it. See you there.